right, let's talk more Indians baseball. We bring in Nick Camino from WTAM, the Indians beat reporter. Nick, thanks for joining us tonight.
Guys, glad to be here. Always a pleasure. Didn't know I'd get both of you tonight.
Oh, this is like Meet the Press, or I don't know, George Stephanopoulos isn't here or something. But hey, let's talk about the Indians. Your thoughts on the first half?
You know, it was surprising, obviously, Andy. I mean, they surprised a lot of people. Their pitching, their defense was great throughout, and they're in a place where they haven't been for 3 years. Second place after the All-Star game, only a half game out. So I was impressed with them, surprised by them. I'm a guy that picked them last in the Central Division after spring training, after seeing them for 6 weeks. So definitely surprise is the word to describe the first half.
You know, let's talk rotation, because there's going to be some big changes coming up to the Indians' rotation after the All-Star break.
Yeah, Manny Acta has already said he's going to switch things up. He's going to go Justin Masterson at the top, followed by Josh Tomlin, then Carlos Carrasco. And then after those guys, it's going to be Mitch Talbot and Fausto Carmona. Now, you don't know how long a guy like Mitch Talbot is going to be in there because of his struggles of late. But you're going to have Carmona in the 5 spot, which is a little bit weird. He was the ace. He was the opening day starter, but he struggled. So that's where he's going to be for now. And you're going to have those top 3 guys. I don't think there's any doubt those 3 deserve to be at the top of the rotation when you talk about Masterson, Tomlin, and Carrasco.
Does it really matter, though? You know, once you get into it, it doesn't matter. It's you're going to have an off day. Another team's going to have an off day. Your 1 might match up against their 3. I think that 1 through 5 is the most overrated thing, except for opening day and the first day when you come back after the All-Star game. But so if you've got Carmona at the end of that, and he can't win every 5th day, that's the whole thing. You just don't want to go into a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, I think that the top 3 are more important than the overall 5. I think when you look at guys like Masterson, he's pitched just as well as anybody the last 3 weeks in the American League. And you look at Carlos Carrasco, who has struggled his past 2 starts, including today. But when you look at those guys, that top 3, I think, is the most important. But, yeah, you bring up Fausto Carmona. If he doesn't keep winning and you're on a team that is right now expected to win the division where they're at within the organization, you're going to have to do something. You can't keep running a guy out there that's going to keep struggling every 5 days.
You put him in the bullpen? He's got to figure it out somewhere. He's not going back to Columbus.
You know, he's going to have to figure it out somewhere, but the bullpen has been so good. I don't know if I want to mess that up. And people laugh at guys like Chad Durbin and Frank Herman at times. Those guys have been great in long rolls. You saw a week ago, Frank Herman came into a 3-0 ball game after Fausto Carmona got hurt, and he pitched very well. So those long guys sometimes overlooked, but they know their roles in that pen. And while guys like Chris Perez, Tony Sipp, Vinny Pastano, those guys get most of the credit, those long guys have been pretty good. I don't know if you want to mess with that chemistry.
Is this kind of a demotional? Because since they're out of options with him, you figure you put him down at 5. The 5 gets skipped sometimes, just the way the series goes.
Sure.
And if you want to bring up your spot starters like Genmar Gomez, you could do it for him. So in a lot of ways, he could miss starts and be replaced by guys that come up from the minors.
That's a good point, Mike. I really didn't think about that much. If you're having that 5th starter that you can skip and you just go with your top 4 guys, you brought up Genmar Gomez. David Huff has pitched well down there, the lefty. Zach McAllister, saw him a couple days ago, didn't get the win, but looked pretty good in his first outing. So, yeah, you have those options where you could skip him a little bit. It's not a bad idea. I think Manny Acta might be thinking like Mike Cairns.
You're still going to have to put somebody back down to do it, to bring somebody back up. So it'll be interesting to see how you would do that. I want to talk about the offense. Travis Hafner really needed that grand slam. And when you look back at that series with the Blue Jays going into the break, he doesn't hit that. That's 4 games. You just blew a series at home, 4 straight.
Yeah, I talked about that on the air today on my show on WTAM 1100. And that was a guy who, Travis Hafner, I'll tell you what, this whole season, he's really come back to what, at least some of what he was. I'm not going to think that Travis Hafner is ever going to hit 42 home runs again like he did in 2006, but he's a guy who really needed to have this type of season. And you see that he just changes the entire lineup. It changes the way that guys pitch to Carlos Santana. It changes the way that guys pitch to Grady Sizemore. When Travis Hafner's in there and healthy, but Andy, you're right. If he doesn't hit that grand slam, you might get swept, and it would have been good going into the All-Star break.
Why do you think Travis Hafner is better this year? What's the difference?
I think the difference is he's healthy. He's able to work out. Travis Hafner, you could see when he wasn't healthy like he should be, when he was having issues with his shoulder, he wasn't working out. Travis Hafner, more than anybody, gets in the weight room. He's working out more than anybody, and he's a guy that you can see he's just gained mass because he's been able to work out, and the reason he's been able to work out is because he's healthy now.
Do the Indians make a move in the second half, and where do they make the move if they do?
I think if they're serious about making a deep run in the playoffs, they're going to have to make a move, Mike. I think that if they want to maybe win this division and contend and stay near the top, they might not have to make a move, but if they're serious and they want to really find themselves in October, they have to make a move. be it a right-handed bat, an extra arm. You look at the outfield. The infield's pretty solidified, especially if you get Lonnie Chisenhall back. You got the shortstop as Dribble Cabrera. I like Orlando Cabrera. He's a good option over at second base. And obviously you got Matt Laporte at first base. But I think that if you're serious about contending, you need to make a move for a right-handed bat. You got guys like Jeff Francoeur. You got guys like Ryan Ludwig. Those guys are out there, and they can help this team right now. You might have to give up some prospects. But again, how many times have the Indians been in the position that they are right now the past 3 years? You got to go for it.
Let's say, if you remember when they made the Bartolo Colon deal, they were still in it, and they decided to make a trade. I mean, you go back a couple of years at that point.
Yeah.
But if they don't make a deal, and they're within 5 to 7 games, and we're heading into August, what does that say to the fans?
It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. You're in position right now to do something with this team that nobody expected you to do. Yeah, they're a year ahead of schedule, but I go back to it. How many times have you been in this spot the past 3 years? You haven't. You need to go for it when you have the opportunity. These guys have a unique opportunity where no one expected them to do this, but they're a half game behind the Tigers in a division that isn't very good. So I think they have to go for it.
And speaking of that, White Sox, Tigers, Indians. Who has the better second half? Who wins the Central?
I think if I had to put money on it right now, who would win the Central Division, it would be the Tigers. They're no guarantee to win, only when Justin Verlander, when Justin Verlander takes the mound, it feels like they're virtually unbeatable. Right. But they have some question marks. I think the Tigers would be my favorite just because of the question marks surrounding the Indians. And you never know what's going to happen with Ozzie Guillen and Kenny Williams out in Chicago. So I'd say the Tigers are my favorite right now. But I think the Indians can definitely stay in the hunt the entire way.
All right, last question for you. I'm sure you've got one more too, but so last question from me. You make one move second half of the season to make things bright. What's the one thing you're doing for this team?
Getting a right-handed bat that can play the outfield, be it Ludwig, be it Francoeur, anybody. Melky Cabrera is having a pretty good year with the Kansas City Royals. You need a bat because the lineup right now is left-handed heavy. You need a bat on that right-handed side of the plate that can also play the outfield because you don't know when you're getting Shin-Soo Choo back. So I'd say the move they have to make, if they're going to make one, and if they're going to need to make a move if they're serious about contending and going deep into the playoffs, it's a right-handed outfielder.
The other thing about Ludwig is well-respected in the clubhouse when he was here before, and the front office liked him. And he left on good terms.
Yeah, and that's huge. You talk about that because guys remember that. You didn't burn any bridges. That's important.
I'm good.
You're good. He's out of questions. All right, well, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Guys, it's a pleasure. Thanks.
Nick.